Okay, we now move on to a discussion on multiple, that is M-array, multiple or M-array hypothesis testing. So the multiple hypothesis testing becomes a generalization of the binary hypothesis testing that we discussed till now. Or in other words, we can say that the binary hypothesis testing is a specific case of multiple hypothesis testing. Now, to develop the testing method, we consider a hypothesis source which can give out M hypothesis, Hi, I varying from 0, 1 to, that is I taking on values 0, 1 to up to M minus 1. So M possibilities, M hypothesis, H0, H1, H2 up to Hm, and one can clearly see that the binary hypothesis is when M is equal to 2, so you have H0 and H1. Now, for each, for a given true hypothesis, let's say Hi, given that Hi is the true hypothesis, one can take M possible decisions. So one can say H0 is the true hypothesis when Hi, one can declare H0 is the hypothesis when Hi was the true hypothesis, one can declare H1 is the true hypothesis when Hi was the true hypothesis, and so on and so forth. Up to one can declare Hm minus 1 is the hypothesis when Hi is the true hypothesis. So for each possible true hypothesis, there are M possible decisions which one can take, which means that for each possible hypothesis, true hypothesis, there are M costs that one can incur. So we can write down these costs like C0I, that is cost when we declare H0 as the true hypothesis when Hi was indeed the true hypothesis. C1I, that is the same as saying the cost that you incur when you say that H1 is the true hypothesis when Hi was indeed the true hypothesis. So like this we can have M different costs per hypothesis, and we have M different hypotheses, which means that the total cost involved will be M square. So there are M square costs involved, as explained here. For each hypothesis Hi, true hypothesis Hi, there are M different costs involved, and since there are M hypotheses, you have M square costs. Again, we can specialize this to binary hypothesis testing. When we put M as equal to 2, we have 4 different costs, and indeed in binary hypothesis testing we have C00, C01, C10, C11, 4 different costs. So with that picture in mind, we can write a general expression for the risk. So I will write risk here instead of R subscript I, which I did earlier, because I am going to use as a subscript for the costs and the other density functions and probably the hypothesis. So I will write risk as risk itself. So I can write the risk as equal to generalizing the binary hypothesis testing, the risk in binary hypothesis testing, and understanding, as we did just now, that there are M square costs. I can write the risk as equal to I equal to 0 to M minus 1 C Ji Pi integration over the region. This is nothing but a generalization of binary hypothesis testing. So you can see that Cji is the cost incurred when we declare Hj as the hypothesis when Hi was the true hypothesis, Pi is the probability of Hi being the true hypothesis, and this integration is over a region Zj, over a partition Zj of the observation space Z, and what I have inside the integration here is the density function of the received random vector when Hi is the true hypothesis. So this is, if I add this up for j 0 to m minus 1, I will have considered all the possible costs and all the possible, because this summation considers all possible possibilities of the true hypothesis, and then when I do this summation over j, I get the I consider all the possible decisions that one can take, the decision rule can take. So this is the risk now. Now to proceed further, this expression, it becomes difficult to proceed further. So we will have to take a specific case. So we will take a case which is not complicated, at the same time is simple enough, at the same time has the required complexity. So let us take the case of m is equal to 3 and proceed. So we take the case of m is equal to 3 and proceed now. So when m is equal to 3, we have the risk, we can write the risk as equal to, when m is equal to 3, we can write the risk as equal to C00. This is nothing but an expansion of that double summation, which you can even do on your own by putting m as equal to 3. So the expansion will be like this: C00 P0 integration over the region Z0 PR H0 R H0 dr plus C10 P0 integration over Z1 PR H0 R H0 dr plus C20 P0 integration over Z2 PR H0 or H0 dr. So till this point we have expanded j from 0 to 2. So m minus 1 will be 2 because m is 3. If you go back to that summation, the outer summation has been expanded by keeping I as equal to 0. Now we have to repeat this expansion of outer summation by keeping I as equal to 1. So doing that, I get C01 P1 integration over Z0 PR H0 R H0 dr plus C11 P1 integration over Z1 PR H1 or H1. This must be H1 because we are keeping I as equal to 1 and repeating the j summation from 0 to 2. So a small error here, I have corrected it, it must be H1. And continuing here, C11 P1 integration over Z1 PR H1 plus C21 P1 again integration over Z2 PRH2 RH2 dr, and then so this completes the summation of the expansion of j from 0 to 2 for I is equal to 1. Now finally we have to do it for, repeat this j 0 to 2 for I is equal to 2. So doing that we get C02 P2 integration over Z0 PRH2 RH2 dr plus C12 P2 integration over Z1 PRH2 RH2 plus C22 P2 integration over Z2 PRH2 RH2 dr. Now since m is equal to 3, we will have 9 costs and there must be 9 terms in this, and we can indeed see that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 terms are there. So all the terms are there. Again, the problem is that further manipulating this is going to be bit, because it has become unwieldy, but we'll have to proceed with this till we could arrive at a decision rule in this case, and then one has to apply it patiently if m happens to be more than 3. Okay, now here what we do is, so I will explain what we will be doing. I will not be able to work it out on the board here because it will take a lot of space. So I will explain what we are doing so that you can do it on your book or wherever you are noting it down. This integration, remember Z0, Z1, Z2 are partitions of the observation space Z. So Z0 union Z1 union Z2 will be Z. So this integration we can write as 1 minus an integration over Z1 minus an integration over Z2. Because if you integrate this density function over the entire observation space, the answer will be 1. This is something that we did earlier also when we discussed the binary hypothesis testing, when we developed the binary hypothesis testing rule. So since this is a density function, if you integrate it over the entire observation space, you will get the result as 1. So the result of integrating it over Z0 has to be 1 minus the result of integrating it over Z1 as well as Z2. So we write this as 1 minus integration over Z2 minus integration over Z1, or integration over Z1 minus integration over Z2. So we write it like this. So this part we write like this. This part we will write like this. And then we come over here and this we will write as 1 minus, because this is an integration of PRH1 over Z1. So we will write it as 1 minus an integration over Z0 minus an integration over Z2. For the same reasons as I explained here, this is a density function. If you integrate it over the entire observation space, the result will be 1. So integration over the observation space Z1 has to be 1 minus integral of this in the region Z0 minus the integral of this in the region Z2. And then we come here, the last term here, and write this accordingly as 1 minus an integral of this over Z0 minus an integral over Z1. And after doing this, we manipulate the terms, simple manipulation which you can do. So we manipulate the terms and rewrite the risk. Remember, this is the risk that I have here, although I have not written risk is equal to, it is the risk that I have here. We manipulate this after rewriting these. I repeat, 1 minus integral over z1 minus integral over z2, 1 minus integral over z0 minus integral over z2, 1 minus integral over z0 minus integral over z1. Integrand remains the same as what we have here. And then when we have that expanded form, because it becomes an expanded form, because one integral you are writing as 3 terms, it will be a slightly longer version than this. And we manipulate that, we group certain terms together, group certain integrals together, and then we can rewrite this risk as what I am about to write now. So I will not work out all the details. It's a simple regrouping which you can do on your own, and then you can rewrite the risk as I am about to write now. Risk is equal to C00 P0 plus C11 P1 plus C22 P2 plus, so these terms come because of the 1 that we have, because as I said just now, 1 minus, we are writing one particular integral as 1 minus integral over the other two regions, and that 1 is causing these terms to come separately, and integral over z0 C02 minus C22 into P2 PR given H2 plus C01 minus C11 P1 PR given H1 dr. I will not write dr here. Unfortunately, I don't have space, so there is a dr here. And then plus integral over z1 C12 minus C22 P2 PR given H2 plus C10 minus C00 P0 PR given H0 dr, and then plus integral over the region z2 C21 minus C11 P1 PR given H1 plus C20 minus C00 P0 P R given H0 dr. So this is how you can rewrite the risk by the way by doing the manipulations, lengthy but simple manipulations which I explained just now. And now what we do is we will call this term, this integrand. These integrands are very important for further discussion. So we will call them as I subscript 0, it's a function of R. This will be I1, I subscript 1, function of R, I subscript 2, function of R. So this is the risk. And the decision process is one which is going to minimize the risk. So that is the idea, how you have to minimize the risk. And our decision process will be, that will be the driving factor when we arrive at the decision process. That is how we take the decision. That this will be our main concern, to minimize the risk, as you know. So the region Z, the observation space Z, has to be now divided into 3. Say symbolically I will show like this. This is region 1, 2, 3, 3 regions, such that in region Z0, say probably this one, again it's simply a symbolic representation, in region Z0, I0 is minimum. So wherever in this observation space I0 is less the minimum compared to I1 and IR, you call that region as Z0. And wherever the region, say Z1, where I1R is less than I0 and I2, you call it as region Z1. And similarly, region Z2 is the one where I2R is the minimum. So if this is the way we are partitioning the observation space, our integrands will be the smallest in their respective range of integration, and that will ensure a minimum risk. And that means that having received the vector R, compute I0 R, I1 R and I2 R, and if I0 R is the least, is less than I1 R and I2 R, it implies that the hypothesis was H0. Because having received R and having computed I0 R, if I0 R happens to be the smallest of the three, it means that you are in the region Z0, because region Z0 is chosen in such a way that I0 R is the smallest and region Z0 is reserved for hypothesis H0. Similarly, having received R and computed these three, if I1 R happens to be less than I0 R and I2 R, declare that H1 is the true hypothesis. And finally, of course, if I2 R happens to be the smallest of the three, having received R, declare that H2 was the true hypothesis. So this can be expressed here. Clear some space here. So whatever I said now can be expressed here by writing I0 R less than I1 R and I2 R, declare H0. If I1 R is less than I0 R, I2 R, declare H1. If I2 R is less than I0 R and I1 R, declare H2. So this is the way we are going to take the decision. Now, this can be expressed in a more aesthetic manner by defining likelihood ratios and expressing whatever was discussed just now in terms of a likelihood ratio test. And we will now proceed towards that. Now in the binary hypothesis testing, we had one likelihood ratio. So since here we have three hypotheses, there will be two likelihood ratios. We'll have to have with us two likelihood ratios. So capital lambda 1, one of the likelihood ratios, we will define as conditional density function of R given H1 divided by conditional density function of R given H0. That is one of our likelihood functions. And the other one will be lambda 2, which will be density function of R given H2 divided by density function of R given H0. And we will have these likelihood functions with us, likelihood ratios with us, and I will just introduce these ratios to you. We will refer to this later. And now what we do is, we will rewrite the decision rule that I discussed just now a short while ago wherein we compared I naught R with I1R and I2R, and if that is less than I naught, I1R and I2R, we said H naught and all those things. So let us write it like this now. I naught R we compare with I1R, and if I naught R happens to be less, I naught R happens to be less than I1R, it is certain that H1 is not the hypothesis, because I1R is not the lowest of the three. I naught R is less than I1R, so it is certain that H1 is not the hypothesis. At the same time, it is not certain that H naught is the hypothesis, because I2 could be less than I naught R. So if this is the case, the only thing we can say confidently is that the hypothesis is either H naught or H2, because H2 can be the lowest of the three. Similarly, if this happens to be more, we can say that the hypothesis definitely it is not I naught, H naught, so it can be either H1 or H2. And likewise, we can compare I naught R with I2R and use the same logic and say that if I naught R is less than I2R, it is either H naught or H1, definitely not H2. And if this is turning out to be smaller than this, it's definitely not H naught, so it's either H2 or H1. So on the basis of this, now what we do is we will write the full expression for I naught R. Remember, I naught R is an abbreviation for one of the long integrands that we had. Similarly, I1R and I2 are also terms, symbols which we have given to those long integrands. So we'll write the full form here. So I naught R, if you recall, is C02 minus C22 P2 P R given H2 plus C01 minus C11 P1 PR given H1, and this is I naught R, and our comparison is like this: H1 or H2, H naught or H2. And on this side I will write the full expression for I1R, which is C12 minus C22 P2 PR given H2 plus C10 P0 C10 minus C00 P0 probability density function of R given H naught. This is what it is. So when I write this expression in its full form, this is what it looks like. And now we see that if we divide throughout with density function of R given H naught, we can write this in terms of the likelihood ratios which we had just now defined. So if I divide both sides of this comparison with PR given H naught, over here I will have lambda 2. Here I will have lambda 1. And here again I will have lambda 2. And this will vanish, in the sense you will get a 1 here, so you just write it like this. So this is the test. This is the test. Now you can bring the lambda 1 terms on one side and lambda 2 terms on the other side, and write this as a simple comparison of two likelihood ratios. So I will skip those steps because it's just a combining certain terms and taking certain terms to the other side. So I will skip that. Such manipulations I will skip, and I can write now this as equal to P2 C02 minus C12. You can see that this C22 is cancelling, and that is how it is happening. So I will not, as I said, I am not going to explain the steps in detail. You can verify. And on this side, we will have minus P1 C01 minus C11 lambda 1 C, that is plus, of course, plus C10 minus C00 P0. So this is how that test looks like when we express it in terms of the likelihood ratios. And what are the likelihood ratios that has been discussed just now. So this is one. This is what happens when you take this particular test and write I0 and I1R in its full forms and use the likelihood ratios. Similarly, if you use this, it's here. If you use this and write these in their full original form and manipulate like this, you can write this as equal to, so again this is left as a simple exercise, P2 C02 minus C22 lambda 2, that is the likelihood ratio, H2 or H1, H0 or H1, lambda 1 P1 C21 minus C01 plus P0 C20 minus C00. This is how this likelihood ratio test, or this test, is going to look like when you express it in terms of likelihood ratios. And finally, there is one more here, a similar test, one more, because we have not compared I1 and I2. So when you compare I1, which I didn't write at that time, if you compare I1 with I2, using these similar arguments, you can say that if I1 happens to be more than I2, it is either H0 or H2. If I1 happens to be more than I2, it is either H0 or H2. And if it is the other way, then it is either H1 or H0. And this also you can write I1 and I2 in its full form and then express it using the likelihood ratios to end up getting this. H2 or H0, and here it will be H 1 or H naught, lambda 1 or P1 C21 minus C11 minus P naught C10 minus C20. So this is the way this test is going to look like when you express it in terms of the likelihood ratios. So now we have the required information with us to take a decision. Now it is a bit easier from this point onwards to demonstrate this by taking a case where P0 is equal to P1 is equal to P2 is equal to 1 by 3. That is, the three hypotheses are equally likely and the costs are such that C00 equal to C11 equal to C22 is equal to 0 and Cij whenever I not equal to j is 1. That is, the cost for wrong decisions is 1 and cost for the correct decision is 0. If this is the way it is, then all these three tests which we expressed using the likelihood ratios, you can verify it. I will not simply write it here and waste time. You can show that the three tests become something like lambda 1, that is the likelihood ratio lambda 1 is compared with 1 unity and H1 or H2, H0 or H2, and then lambda 2 compared with again 1 and H2 or H1, H0 or H1, and finally lambda 2 is compared with lambda 1 and H2 or H0 if it turns out to be more than this, or H1 or H0 if this turns out to be more than this. So this is how this likelihood ratio test for a case with three hypotheses is going to look like when the costs are such that for the wrong decision you have 1 unit cost and for the correct decision there is no cost and the probability of occurrence of the hypothesis is 1 each. Now this can be expressed in a very compact form in a figure. So let us see how this decision rule can be expressed or can be represented using a simple figure. So this is that figure. This is the lambda 1 axis, capital lambda 1 axis, that is the likelihood ratio or the first likelihood ratio, and this is the lambda 2 axis, the second likelihood ratio. And this line, this is 0, this is 1, again 0 here and 1 here, that is lambda 2 is 1, lambda 1 is 1 here, 2 will be somewhere here, 3 will be somewhere here, and so on and so forth. Now this line is the lambda 2 is equal to 1 line, and this line is the lambda 1 is equal to 1 line. You can see lambda 1 is equal to 1, this is 1, so lambda 2 is equal to 1 is this line, and this line is lambda 1 is equal to lambda 2 line. Now on this side lambda 1 is greater than 1, and whenever lambda 1 is greater than 1 we say H1 or H2. On this side lambda 1 is less than 1, and whenever it is less than 1 we say H0 or H2. Similarly, whenever lambda 2, on this side lambda 2 is more than 1 because this is lambda 2 is equal to 1 line. When this on this side above this line lambda 2 is greater than 1 and we say H2 or H0, this H1 is the true hypothesis. Below this line, lambda 2 is less than 1, and we say H0 or H1 is the true hypothesis. Similarly, above this line, we have lambda 2 more than lambda 1. And below the line, we have lambda 2 less than lambda 1. By virtue of the test which we had just now written down, above this line, it has to be either H2 or H0, H1. Below the line, it has to be either H1 or H0. Now, if you combine these, you see that this side, it is H1 or H2, and this says it is H1 or H0, and this says it is H0 or H1. So if you combine these three, you see that this region is true, or this region belongs to H1, because the three, this line, and this, that is the boundaries as described by this, as described by these lines, that is described by this, and described by this. So by described by this, you see that it is H1 is the true hypothesis. Either sides of this, it is H1 is the true hypothesis. Below this, it is H1 is the true hypothesis, and on this side, H1 is the true hypothesis. So this region shaded belongs to H1. Similarly, you can see that below this, it is H1 or H0. Here it is H1, H0, sorry, this is H0 or H1. This is H0 or H2. So both these lines say that this side is for H0, and on either side of this line, it is H0. It is H0 on either side of this line. So we can say that this is in fact H2 or H0. I think I made a mistake here. So the above this line, it is either H2 or H0, because when we compare lambda 1 with lambda 2, we say that if lambda 2 is more than lambda 1, it is H2 or H0. I made a mistake here, I have corrected it now. So this line, either side of this line is for H0, below this line it is for H0 or H1, and below this line, on this side of this line, it is H0 or H2. So H0 is common in this region, which means that this region is for H0. And then, of course, you can verify, or through simple logical deduction, you can say that this region has to be for H2, hypothesis H2. So this is how we can depict pictorially the decision rule, which was derived just now. So whenever you compare lambda 1 and lambda 2 in a 2D space like this, and remember, likelihood ratios will be always positive because it's a ratio of density functions, and density functions are always positive. So in a space like this, if you are in this region, you can simply declare it as H1. If you are in this region, you can declare it as H0. And if you are in this region, you can declare it as H2. So this is an example of M-array hypothesis testing. We have studied this M-array hypothesis testing by using a case where there are three hypotheses. You will be able to extend this to a case if there are four. If there are four hypotheses, you will have three likelihood ratios, and you will have a three-dimensional space like this, which can become slightly more complicated to explain, and one has to visualize it. So that completes our discussion on M-array hypothesis testing.